it's going to be the same movie we've seen. It's what it is. Guys,
I totally agree. I think we're going to see a lot. There's going to be a course correction from last week where Mac got out of control, didn't manage the game. He's going to overmanage the game, and people are going to get mad. He's going to be throwing the ball at people's feet. He's going to be throwing the ball away, and I'm going to hear the boos. But you and I already know what's going to happen. Like, nobody's going to be open, and people are going to take it out on Mac Jones, and he's going to be running for his life. Nobody's going to be open, and instead of trying to make a play like he did last week, and he lost big time, now he's going to chuck the ball out of bounds, and people are going to start to boo.
The Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
He's Greg. I'm Nick, getting you ready for Saints Patriots coming up this Sunday. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network, and AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health, and Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, and Odds Are, the mobile app you need to know what bets of the day are the smart ones. Greg, let's start with J.C. Jackson, news of the week. Of course, he joins a team from the Chargers. The trade was made yesterday. Just your thoughts on the addition.
I guess I've been out running errands, so you might have seen this. I think he was on the practice field today. Am I mistaken in that?
Yeah, not sure. I was doing my podcast.
Okay. I think he was on the practice field today. I think that, from people I've talked to, they think it might be a stretch that he plays this weekend. But I think I would not be surprised if he plays this weekend. I mean, they need him to. It doesn't sound like – I think that J.C. Jackson being here is not quite just about, like, Christian Gonzalez. I think it's about Jonathan Jones on where he's at. If Jonathan Jones was coming back and everybody slots down a spot, then I don't think there's the panic that there is to, sort of bring in J.C. Jackson. So I worry a little bit about that. I mean, if you don't have Jonathan Jones coming back this week, which, it doesn't look like it. And I was just looking at the injury report. He was limited on Wednesday with the ankle, which is basically where he was last week. So, look, I think it's good that they got J.C. Jackson back. I don't, and Nick, you and I think are pretty consistent on this. Whether it's about drafted guys that end up someplace else that don't perform, or guys, free agents who came from someplace else that didn't perform. I don't really care what other people do in different systems. Like, I don't care what J.C. Jackson did with the Chargers. It's a different system. I don't know what they were asking for him to do. It's sort of like the Kaiir Elam cornerback in Buffalo, who I wanted for the Patriots in the draft. He's been like a healthy and active for the Bills, a couple weeks. But that's a different scheme. That's a zone-based scheme where when I evaluate players, and including, like, you can lump J.C. Jackson into this, the Patriots, for the most part, are more of a man scheme. At least that's what they need to play to be a good defense. That's how they're constructed. And so if J.C. Jackson or Kaiir Elam are not performing in more of a zone-based scheme, then I don't really care what they've done. And so I just worry about J.C.'s health. And he said with the Chargers that he wasn't healthy, that they knew it. I think we might hear from J.C. Jackson either today or tomorrow. So I'm sure he's going to clarify that, whether he was telling the truth about that or if he was just sort of knocking the Chargers at the time. But, if J.C. Jackson is somewhat healthy, then I think they need him out there. I don't have a problem with Myles Bryant. He is what he is, and anybody expects him to be more than like a number 3 cornerback and, say that he sucks because he's one-on-one with CeeDee Lamb by himself on an island and gives up a touchdown, then that's their business. I don't think that's not a position for him to succeed. But I think that, just Shaun Wade is not somebody I want on the football field at all. So any moves that keep Shaun Wade off the field, like moving Jalen Mills to cornerback, I thought Jalen Mills played well in the last game against Dallas when he got an opportunity, missed a tackle. But other than that, he was pretty good. Then I'm all for it.
By the way, practice is still an hour away, so no idea if he's going to be out there or not. To me, to me, the trade was a no-brainer. You didn't give up anything. You didn't have to pay much money. Your cornerback situation is desperate. People saying, "Oh, well, why don't you trade for a wide receiver?" Cornerback is much more desperate than wide receiver. At least you have guys who are NFL receivers on that side of the ball. They're not great wide receivers, but at least they're NFL wide receivers. I'm not walking into a game with Sean Wade, Miles Bryant, and maybe Jalen Mills as my top 3 corners. It was time for desperation. So, guy knows the scheme. He's had success in the scheme. And I agree with you. The Charger stuff doesn't mean much. That defense sucks. Brendan Staley's not very good. And it's a completely different way they approach things. They had J.C. Jackson playing on an island against top receivers. I don't think you should do that. So I think he'll be fine. And even 80% of JC is better than what they have, frankly. The other IR returnees that you saw out there, Greg, we have Trey Flowers, who returned. We got your guy, Cody Davis, and we got Riley Reiff back out there yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Cody Davis, Super Bowl back on now that Cody Davis is back. I think getting Trey Flowers back, would be really nice. I don't know where he is conditioning wise. I know it took him a while to get, up to speed with the foot that he's dealing with. But, while I don't expect Trey Flowers before he left here and signed for big money in Detroit, Trey has always been sort of the ultimate professional. And he's one of these guys who just does his job. He's productive. He knows how to win games. He knows how to close games. I think the most significant thing about getting Trey Flowers back is that frees up Keon White if he comes back. And granted, let's also point out that these guys, they're just starting the clock. So they have 21 days to make a decision about these guys, whether they come off IR or they stay on IR for the rest of the year. So it could be, for some of these guys, it could be a week. For some of these guys, it could be 2 or 3 weeks before they are ultimately activated. But if Trey Flowers is activated anytime soon, especially in the wake of the Matthew Judon injury, then the most significant thing to me is Trey Flowers is more of an inside guy. He plays more of the Dietrich Wise role, which allows Trey Flowers and Dietrich Wise to rotate there as far as first 2 downs, sub packages. And to me, it moves Keon White even more to an edge role. And for that, I am wholeheartedly in favor of that. I think he has a tremendous potential there to be one of the strongest strong side ends in the league. That means holding up against the tight end, the strong side of the running formation. I think he can be really good at that going forward. When he's gotten exposed, like in this Dallas game, it was sort of the same role that you used to see Dietrich Wise. 3-4 end inside, sort of can't hold up against the blockers and gets erased in the running game, which he did on a 26-yard run. He got completely folded in. I don't think that's his game, at least not yet. I think you put him on the end, then that frees him up. I do think they'll probably still go with Anthony Jennings, a guy who's been in the system, who knows how to set the edge. Nothing spectacular. I could see a rotation between the two of them. Anthony Jennings on the first 2 downs against the running attack. Keon White comes in passing situations to be the end opposite Josh Uche. Who was the other guy who came off?
Riley Reiff.
Oh, Riley Reiff. Well, I don't know what to really say about that. I mean, the last time we saw Riley Reiff, he was a disaster at right tackle to the point that they moved him to right guard. So where does that leave him? Would they think about putting him? So Cole Strange was limited with his knee again. Micah Winu is not on the injury list. So what we can draw from that, his worst ever game was not injury related, which is a little bit depressing. I think Riley Reiff, he'll probably take some time to come off of IR, but do you look at him at left guard instead of Antonio Mafi? I wouldn't do that, but I'm not overly excited about the Riley Reiff experience. I don't think it has any sort of impact on this team one way or the other. I just would rather not see him playing on this team.
I mean, the offensive tackle spot on the right side has been so bad. I'm actually entertaining the thought of, hey, maybe Riley Reiff won't be as bad as Vidarian Lowe. That's how bad it is. All right. How about the guys?
And let's also point out, this is the team that drafted him, the Saints. So, maybe he's got a little more gas in the tank for the Saints, where he played for a very long time.
All right, how about the guys that didn't return? Jack Jones, Tyquan Thornton, not seen on the field yesterday.
Yeah, Tyquan Thornton, Nick. I don't know how you feel about this, but this was disappointing to say the least. I mean, how long is he? I assume this is like a hamstring thing. I forget what it is, but how long is this going to go on? I mean, this is a season plus of this kid, and he's been off the field more than on it, and they need him, Nick. They need him in a game like this against the Saints, and we're going to talk about the Saints more. But this is a very man-heavy press on the outside type of team, and the way the Patriots are constructed right now with the personnel that they have, that's a freaking nightmare for this team. Like they don't have anybody outside of DeMario Douglas, who they don't use enough, that's going to be able to shake these guys. I mean, Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster are going to be dead in the water, like against these press man guys. I mean, Kendrick Bourne has a little bit more of a chance, but is he going to end up in the right spot? And who was the other guy?
Jack Jones.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that Jack is going to be a little time. From what I understand, I think Mike Reiff reported this past weekend. He understood it be more of like a mid-season thing, but look, we all know the straits that they are in at cornerback, and they need him back as soon as possible. And so, hopefully that happens.
Yeah, between the money thing and the fact that he's not back yet, I think we can finally put on the shelf the idea that this was some kind of suspension and revenge by Belichick, which I did not buy from the very beginning. Never bought it.
So I'll take full accountability. I believed in that conspiracy theory. I wanted to, until it was proven otherwise. It has now been proven otherwise. So no suspension, but I'll be interested to see if they follow through on his contract, like basically cutting his salary in half. Normally players don't react well to that.
Yeah, with Jack Jones, the other part of the J.C. Jackson trade to me too, and I mentioned this on my podcast yesterday, was the idea of Jack Jones insurance. I mean, even if J.C. Jackson's 80%, I mean, at least you have somebody again. And I also think it sets up your room next year. If J.C. Jackson plays well, reasonably well, now you look at next year and you'll work his contract out. But you look at it, you go, okay, Christian Gonzalez coming back, Jonathan Jones, J.C. Jackson. Now all of a sudden, you're Marcus Jones, hopefully be back, from his injury. You look at it, you go, that cornerback room is pretty good.
Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. I love those little suckers, those little bonus bets. It's like free money. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
As far as Tyquan Thornton, it's a shoulder, Greg. You were wondering if it was a hamstring. It's a shoulder yet again. I think he has more shoulder injuries than catches in his NFL career. It's disappointing to say the least. And
Nick,
they do need
maybe we should discuss this a little bit. I mean, the Patriots now have, between Tyquan Thornton, Christian Gonzalez, and Marcus Jones, you have, 3 guys who are dealing with like shoulder, upper body type stuff. And, this is, I think, look, Christian Gonzalez, I think that's more abnormal, because he is built somewhat well. I mean, he's definitely younger, and you're talking about a kid who just turned 21, so he's still going to fill out a lot more. I heard this comparison the other day, or a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was apt. I think, when I see Christian Gonzalez, it reminds me a little bit of a young Rod Woodson, with the Steelers, who was, he was really sort of skinny, played cornerback, and then he transitioned to safety later on in his career as he got bigger and stronger. But you look at these guys, Thornton, Jones, Gonzalez, all kind of, skinnier guys. You run this injury risk, when you go with, smaller guys. And again, I don't think Gonzalez is just, one of those things, but he's younger, he's on the thinner side. And, unfortunately this is what happens in the NFL.
Everybody bitching about Christian Gonzalez and his lack of, oh, he's not a willing tackler. Oh, he's quiet and he's not a willing tackler. Hey, he's a willing tackler, and now he's out for the year. So yay for the willing tackler. How about the guy who just covers? I don't need my cornerback to be hitting dudes like a linebacker. It's just, yeah, it is what it is.
By the way, Nick, let me point out on that. You know, and you're not wrong. I mean, and you know, you look at the Patriots scheme and how they do, you know, their cornerbacks have to cover, have to tackle, you know, a lot on the edge. On that play that he got injured, Josh Uche did not set the edge. If Josh Uche did his job and forced the runner back in, you know, you don't have your first round cornerback getting exposed like that.
Uche not setting the edge, where we've seen that before, about 1,000 times. Let's move on to Mac Jones. Let's talk about him for a little bit here, because of course he is the topic du jour this week. After that awful game on Sunday against Dallas. Where do you think the Patriots are with Mac right now, Greg?
Well, I think they I think for the most part, the people who matter, Belichick, O'Brien, these guys, people have to understand, like they are in the thick of the fight. You know, there's no time to really sit around and think about, like, 4 games into this year, like, are we picking up his 5th-year option? Like, they don't think about stuff like that. Like, they go through the year, they go through each week. It's a week-to-week proposition. You know, Belichick says it, the players say it. It's not hyperbole. It's, you know, 1 week at a time. These coaches, you know, they get, just to give people an idea, because, you know, I went behind the scenes with the Texans and Bill O'Brien and their game planning, which is, you know, how the Patriots do things. And it's like, you know, as soon as Sunday is over, they either don't leave the stadium or they come in like first thing in the morning, and they are reviewing the film. They do that with the players. They go over, and then they are going straight into game planning for the next, basically, like, you know, Monday night, all day Tuesday until probably 3 or 4 in the morning on Wednesday. And then they get that game plan ready to present to the players on Wednesday. And then they're starting, you know, all their game preparation. So, you know, to just give people an idea, they're not sitting around, like, you know, talking about the future of players, you know, after 4 games. You know, to me, Nick, and I'll be interested to get your thoughts on this. Like, look, I think what's been revealed is what, you know, we all thought, and sort of the reality. If you're asking Mac Jones, or basically like 75% of the quarterbacks in this league, if you're asking them to win games for you against really good defenses, that they're going to carry you to victory, that's not his game. That's not something he had to do at Alabama. That's not something he had to do his rookie year with the Patriots. Like, you know, at some point in time down the road, and we'll see, Mac needs to, first and foremost, Mac needs to be settled down. He got sped up last game. It happens to everybody. Now it's on Bill O'Brien to figure out, all right, how do I get him back under control, playing within himself? That's Bill O'Brien's job. He needs to figure it out. He needs to script up easy passes in the early going, better protection, max protection, what have you. Just check it down to the running back. Just like get him into the flow without he's running for his life on every play, and getting him sped up. So that's first and foremost. But I think, you know, long term, Bill O'Brien and Bill Belichick, if Bill Belichick, you know, continues on as the head coach here at the end of the season, like, they need to get together and figure out, all right, well, like, where are we with Mac? Is he our quarterback? And what do we need to do to make him successful? And, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, being a game manager, a guy who doesn't lose games and, you know, occasionally makes plays. But if you're going to do that, you have to build things up. Like, I heard Albert Breer talking earlier about, you know, when Dak was a rookie, a 4th-round rookie, they had a phenomenal offensive line. They had Zeke Elliott in his prime. They had receivers. They had tight ends. They had the apparatus around him to, you know, help the quarterback along. And, you know, what we've seen the last 2 years is the Patriots have gone backwards in all those areas. They've taken away the things that make things easier for the quarterback. So, like, you know, the Patriots Bill Belichick has to figure out, you know, going forward, like, what are we going to do? Like, if we're going to have a guy like Mac Jones, like, you know, they've told people, well, we can win with any of the top 15 quarterbacks because we just need an average quarterback because of our system and blah, blah, blah. Well, if that's the case, then you need to build up things around that quarterback. You need to give him an offensive line. You need to give him a third down back, like James White, who can bail him out in the worst circumstances. You need, at least one dynamic weapon, whether that's a tight end like Rob Gronkowski or a slot receiver or, what have you. They have to figure out if they're going to do that. If they're not going to do that, Nick, if they're going to make the quarterback have to lift everybody else up, the line, the running game, the receivers, then they need to sell the farm to go get somebody who's, uber talented and do that. I just think those guys are few and far between. But I think, if I were the Patriots, I'm building up, I'm figuring out how I can win with Mac now. I am building up everything around him going forward, but I'm also being realistic and I'm scouting the crap out of the draft quarterbacks. If I have a chance, if I really like a guy, then I'm going to draft him, develop him, sit him on the bench, and see what happens. But I don't think there needs to be any rush to judgment on Mac Jones right now. Is he going to be one of the elite quarterbacks in the league? No. There's like 5 of them in the league. You don't have one of the unicorns. Well, you better figure something else out and how to make it work with, the 75% of other guys, or else, you're just going to be losing every year.
You drafted a guy who's not special and you're expecting him to be special. It's just stupid. Doesn't make any sense. I've never heard anybody say that Mac Jones is a top 5 quarterback. Never heard that when he was at Alabama. Didn't hear that when he was coming out in the draft. Didn't hear that even when he was a solid rookie, when he had a good rookie season. Nobody was saying this guy is a top 5 quarterback. I love Phil Perry. Respect the work he does. Phil's the only guy that I've heard, at least locally, and nationally, no one's saying it. Phil's the only guy that I've heard say that he thinks Mac could actually be a top 10 quarterback. Everybody else who said that Mac could be a starting quarterback in the NFL said he'd be somewhere between 10 and 15, maybe 12 and 15. Like that. That's who he's always been. That's who he's always going to be. And to expect him, I just hate these straw man arguments surrounding Mac, and it just gets worse. The echo chamber. Nobody wants to fight back on it. I know we do. There's a select few people that fight back on it and say, well, you're asking too much of the guy. And that's not to excuse him. He is what he is. Let me give you an analogy. So you're a cook. You get hired as a cook. That's your job. That's what you do. You're a pretty good cook. But all of a sudden, the restaurant expects you to be a 5-star Michelin chef. And not only that, they give you a can of Spam, butter, and a fork. Say, good luck, make a great meal. That's what's happening here. Mac's a cook. He's not a 5-star Michelin chef. And you've given him Spam and butter and a fork. Like, quickly, the Patriots have the worst offense in the league. We could look at different metrics, but I'm just going to give you mine. Composite pass protection ranking, which takes SIS. It takes a bunch of acronyms, SIS, PFF, ESPN, 3 analytical metrics, and they combine them. Patriots, 32nd in the league. That's dead last time I checked, in pass protection. 28th in yards per carry. Their top pass catcher is 43rd in receptions, Hunter Henry. Their top receiver is 53rd in receptions, and Kendrick Bourne. Worst offensive line, bottom 5 run game, and I would argue bottom 3 receiving core right now. On top of that, 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years. The second one out of those 3 isn't even an offensive coach. Like, what are we doing? There's a difference between excuses and reasons, Greg. An excuse is when you don't go to work because you didn't wake up on time. A reason is you didn't go to work because you had the flu with 104-degree fever. Reasons I just gave you, those aren't excuses. And to expect a quarterback to be great under those circumstances, you have unreasonable expectations for this quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, Nick, I totally agree with you. And, one thing that I hate hearing about it is that, you hear this line of talking about like, well, everything needs to be perfect around Mac Jones. No, nobody's saying that. But like, you need to get, like, I believe, along with Phil, I believe after Mac's rookie year, I believe that his ceiling was probably around top 10, somewhere, all things go well, 8 to like 12. That's what I believed, like his ceiling. But the thing is like, you look at, let's see, Brock Purdy this year, Jimmy Garoppolo when he was with the 49ers, Jared Goff when he was with the Rams. I'm sure I'm leaving some people out, but Jared Goff now with the Lions. Like, does anybody think that those guys are a lot more talented than Mac Jones, or are that much better than Mac Jones? Like, no, they're all in the same sort of spot. It's like, all right, at their ceiling, they're like top 12 to like 8, maybe. Like, but the reason why those guys have had success at certain times, Goff with the Rams, now with the Lions, Garoppolo with the 49ers, Brock Purdy now with the 49ers, is what? Great scheme, really good offensive line. Detroit, San Francisco, two of the best lines in the league. Some dynamic weapons, especially guys who can, give them answers early. Running back Christian McCaffrey, Debo, like, the Lions went out and got the Jamar Gibbs, and they have really good wide receivers. Like, I'm sorry, like, I don't think I'm wrong on this, that like if you put Mac Jones in San Francisco, if you put him in Detroit, if you put him on those 49er teams that Garoppolo led to a Super Bowl, almost won a Super Bowl with, then Mac Jones can do a lot of those same things, which means like you can win a Super Bowl with Mac Jones. To me, that's the only answer that you need on a quarterback. Can you win a title with this guy? Yes. Well, then you need to figure out what you need to do that, and you need to go and do it. You don't need to go backwards on the offensive line with the running game, at third down back, at receiver, at tight end. Like, you need to go forward. You need to make things better and to give him that opportunity, because I do think you can win a Super Bowl with Mac Jones, and that's, to me, that's the bottom line. That's the only thing that matters.
When you look at the Athletic, just one more thing on Mac, it's interesting. The Athletic quarterback rankings just came out earlier today. From Austin Mock and the Athletic NFL staff. And this looks at EPA, expected points added, success rate, win probability. They look at a number of metrics. And right now they have Mac as the 17th ranked quarterback in the league. And that's after what happened last week against Dallas.
Wow.
When you look at other quarterbacks, I can't agree with you more, Greg, about this idea of, that there are all these other quarterbacks that could do a better job. And again, it's a straw man's argument. And I think people just don't, if you sit down and you actually look at the quarterbacks in the league, there aren't a ton of guys that are more talented than Mac Jones. I mean, I'm looking at a list right now. I'm looking at the rankings. Zach Wilson, Desmond Ridder, Deshaun Watson, not 5 years ago, Sam Howell, Ryan Tannehill, Kenny Pickett, Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, Josh Dobbs, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield. I just named like 14 dudes. So like to say that Mac could be a top 10 to 15 quarterback isn't telling you he's a great quarterback. The fact is, as Greg said, there's like 5 excellent quarterbacks, and then there's the rest. And it's, what does the rest have? Simple.
What if there was an app that used AI and machine learning to suggest smart sports bets? There is, and it's called Odds Are. It is a mobile app you need to know what bets of the day are smart ones. Download the app, sign up for an account, and let the latest data analysis guide you through today's point spreads, money lines, and over-unders. I just did it. It's easy. If you see green, that's a smart bet. If you see yellow, you're on your own. If you see red, don't do it. Odds Are doesn't take your bet, it makes you better at it. With Odds Are on your mobile phone, you're a tap away from making a smart play. It's smart betting made simple. Find Odds Are app in the App Store or on Google Play. Get a 2 free week trial. It's just $10 a month after that. But hey, listen to that. That's for the usual people, the normal people. Listeners to this podcast, the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast, you actually get a special deal. Get your first 30 days of the app free. Just go to oddsr.com/Bedard to download the app. That's oddsr.com/Bedard. 30 days of smarter betting free. We'd call that a winning bet. The casinos and sportsbook want you to bet. Odds Are wants you to win. Go get it.
Let's jump to the Saints offense, Greg. Get ready for Sunday here quickly. just your overall thoughts on this unit, led by one Derek Carr.
Well, they certainly have talent. That's for sure. I mean, with Michael Thomas is back. Love Chris Olave, the young receiver out of Ohio State. Rashid Shaheed is a speed guy on the outside. Of course, you have Kamara's back from suspension, and he's sort of, getting his legs under him. So you look at them compared to the Patriots, and you're like, all right, well, these guys have weapons. So what's the issue? Why does their offense stink? Their offensive line has been in total flux. They've been a lot like the Patriots in terms of, injuries. Andrews Pete has been dealing with a concussion. Cesar Ruiz, the right guard, he's been out, even though I didn't see him on the injury list. So I don't know what the deal is with there. They had a hell of a time blocking the Bucs last week. There was a lot of pressure on Derek Carr. And now, look, I'm not the biggest Carr fan. I watched him a lot in Vegas over the years, watched his film. I don't think he's anything. I think he's pretty gutless. And, you just need to get him hurried up. It's going to be big. To me, the biggest thing in this game, especially considering where the Patriots are with their with their cornerbacks, I assume they're going to play a lot of zone in this game, selectively double once in a while. Who's Derek Carr looking for on third down and things like that. But it's going to be on the Patriots pass rush. Like, they have to win the line of scrimmage against the Saints. If they get pushed around, and we'll see if they get Pete and Ruiz back this week, because, they do have the makings of a pretty good offensive line. Penning, the left tackle, is, excellent. He was a guy that I kind of wanted for the Patriots in the draft a couple of years ago. McCoy, the center's good. Ramczyk at the right tackle is pretty good. So if they get the other two guys, they have the makings of a good line. And the last thing you want in the world is for Derek Carr to be comfortable. That's when he's at his best. But still, he's going to be captain check down, which is what he was against the Bucs. This is a game where I'm in favor of like hanging back and just making Derek Carr check it down all day. But they're going to have an answer for Alvin Kamara. It'll be interesting to see if Marte Mapu gets that assignment. He started to get more and more time. Could be Kyle Duggar. They don't have a whole lot at tight end, for the Saints. You do have to look out for Taysom Hill. What role is he going to play? To me, he throws the best ball on the team by far, better than Derek Carr. And when they need to throw, it's almost like they put Taysom Hill in and they're like, all right, drive the ball down the field. And Carr's been beat up. He's dealing with injuries. So, look, to me, it's the Patriots can't let the Saints get cooking on the offensive line with their run game with Kamara. If that happens, it could be then you have to put more people in the box to stop the run, to deal with Kamara. Then you're leaving Michael Thomas and Olave and Shaheed one-on-one on the outside, and that's not a good recipe for the Patriots right now.
I've been a little higher on Carr than you. That's been throughout the history of this podcast. Yeah. But he's got a sprained AC joint. He's not healthy. More than half of the completions last week against Tampa were behind the line of scrimmage. This team is 21st in passing yards per game. They're 26th in yards per pass. They have the explosive. They do have Olave, who's explosive downfield. And you mentioned some of the other guys, Rashid Shaheed and all the guys. It's just not a fun offense to watch. So I'm supposed to be going to this game on Sunday. I think I got a couple tickets to go. And I'm going because I haven't gone to a game in a long time. It reminds me of when I went to Fenway earlier this year when I first got back home. It's like I'm not going for the product. I'm going for the experience because I haven't been there in years. Because this game, my God.
Nick, make sure your phone is charged so you can do other things, check your fantasy, place FanDuel bets during the game, because you're going to need to be entertained. Watch another game while you're there.
If the Saints can't run the football, holy shit. I don't know. It could be the worst offensive game that we've ever witnessed. Generic break.
It's going to be a Jets Saints game for sure.
All right. Let's get to the Saints defense, Greg. Let's wrap this up looking at the defense. And my overriding thought, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, my overriding thought is just, oh man, here we go again. Mm-hmm. Same playbook. We know it's coming, don't we? So the Saints play the 5th most man coverage in the NFL, and they're a top 5 effective team defense in man coverage. So they run it a lot, and they do it really, really well. We've seen this movie before, Bedard. We've seen the movie before.
Yeah, Nick, I feel like the Sixth Sense. I see dead people. I see I am so afraid for Mac Jones in this game. Like between the 1-3 start, they're back home. Patriots fans are grumpy. Danny Quincy wants to call me Grumpy Greg Bedard. I'd say I was ahead of the curve, and all of Patriots Nation is grumpy about where things are and where this team is, and especially the quarterback, because, God forbid they don't have a quarterback that rescues everybody and makes Bill Belichick's all his roster moves look, brilliant and things like that. And that's all coming to roost this Sunday. This Saints defense, they get after you. And this is not a Patriots offense that can punch back. They haven't landed a counter punch all year to this point. Now, this is right in line. We've talked about the defenses. Even Miami's defense isn't good, but they look like the 85 Bears because you can't block up front. So this is right in line with this. These guys, Cameron Jordan up front. I love the Nathan Shepard guy from the Jets, number 93, Carl Granderson at defensive end. They got a couple of young kids. They get into the mix. They get after it up front. I love the linebackers. I love Demario Davis, another former Jet. Pete Warner, the weak side linebacker. I liked him coming out in the draft. And then you get into the secondary. You got Honey Badger back there, Marshawn Lattimore. These guys, they get after you up front. Cameron Jordan is one of my favorite players to watch on film, always has been. He's incredibly consistent and productive and a freaking nightmare to block. God forbid they put Vidarian Lowe out there again. Maybe Riley Reiff, maybe like you brought up earlier, maybe from their practice time, he knows some of Cam Jordan's tricks and that can help. But of course, now Riley Reiff has lead feet, so I don't know how that works. But these guys on the outside, they're going to be press man right up on Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster, and they're probably going to be laughing in their face because they're like, you ain't going anywhere. I don't know how people are going to get open in this game. When I was watching the Bucs game, the Bucs against the Saints defense, Baker had a good game, but he was running for his life, and they rolled him out a ton, a lot of check downs. This is one of the worst teams that the Patriots could be facing after this. I wish they were playing the Raiders this week, because all you have to do is worry about Max Crosby on that defense. And other than that, Mac could breathe a little bit and settle down. Unless
they go one-on-one against Max like they did against Micah.
Yeah, exactly. This is like playing, I'm trying to, some sort of great college basketball, who was it? Arkansas with Nolan Richardson, 40 minutes of hell. Yeah. This is the way the Saints play defense. It's going to be 60 minutes of hell for Mac Jones in the offense. And to me, this is, we talked about, last week might have been a referendum on Mac in terms of, can he make throws against man pressure or man coverage that you're going to see against the Cowboys? Of course, that didn't really come to fruition because they couldn't block it all. To me, this is a referendum on this offensive line. These guys have to come and play this week. If these guys suck again, you're looking at another Dallas scenario, especially if they can't hold up against the Saints offense. This could get ugly quickly, but, this is the pass rush has to come home for the Patriots, and the offensive line, they have to get movement in the running game. They have to protect Mac. I don't care if they keep everybody in the block, not the tight ends because they suck at it. Bring in a 6 offensive lineman or something because the tight ends can't block either. They have to figure something out, or else this is going to be ugly. People are going to be calling for Zappy on the first drive.
Oh, God.
Nick Cattles is going to be getting up and buying, $15 drinks at Gillette just to drown his sorrows. It could be ugly.
Well, that might happen anyway. So if you're they don't get a ton of pressure. That's the one saving grace. When you just look at the numbers, they don't get a ton of pressure. They're towards the bottom third of the league in pressure and sack percentage, no stats. They're in the middle of the pack blitzing. And they just I'm with you, Greg. The problem won't necessarily, first of all, you can look at the pressure rate and all that stuff, like I just mentioned, but if the O-line sucks, the O-line sucks. It doesn't matter. You could play a team that's in the bottom 5 of pressure rate. The way this offensive line is playing, it's still a problem. And then I would also say this might be one of those games. And I'm telling you, I'm feeling it. It's the crystal ball. Mac is going to end up being like stuck in the pocket for 10 seconds at a time because none of his guys can get open. And guess what's going to happen? He's going to be sitting there. And then he's going to have to make a decision, folks. Do I run with the football? Do I throw it in the third row? Or do I try to just throw it to a receiver and hope he makes a play even though he's not open? Mm-hmm. That's what he's dealing with consistently. And so we've seen this movie before. Unless the offensive line blocks, they get some semblance of a run game. Bill O'Brien comes out, gets a little bit creative with bunch formations and maybe plays Pop Douglas more than 18 snaps. It's going to be the same movie we've seen. It's what it is. Guys,
yeah, I totally agree. I think we're going to see a lot. There's going to be a course correction from last week where Mac got out of control, didn't manage the game. He's going to overmanage the game, and people are going to get mad. He's going to be throwing the ball at people's feet. He's going to be throwing the ball away, and I'm going to hear the boos. But you and I already know what's going to happen. Like, nobody's going to be open, and people are going to take it out on Mac Jones, and he's going to be running for his life. Nobody's going to be open, and instead of trying to make a play like he did last week, and he lost big time, now he's going to chuck the ball out of bounds, and people are going to start to boo.
Before we get to the pick, I'll just say this. Because it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a referendum on Mac. Everybody's going to be watching Mac on Sunday. Okay? Don't expect numbers from Mac Jones. If you think you're going into this game on Sunday and the numbers, like the counting stats are going to tell you if he was good or not. If you're expecting 250 and 2 touchdowns against this team or 3 touchdowns, I'm telling you, those are unreasonable expectations. The 2 things that I want to see from Mac on Sunday, much better decision-making and habits. Is he breaking the footwork like you've talked about, Greg? The back foot Mac? Is he stepping into his throws? Do the mechanics and habits look better? And is the decision-making better? This is not a Sunday where you can say, oh, he didn't put up 250 and 3 touchdowns, so he stinks. I'm telling you, that this offense is not built that way. And against this particular defense, if you're looking for numbers, you're looking for the wrong thing.
Nick, I totally agree with you. One more thing I'm looking for, just the W. Like, I think you're totally right. Decision making, better footwork, and just get a win. People this weekend, if they win, if they escape by 3 points and it's 16-13, people should be happy. It gives them a room to breathe, and now you hopefully build into it the Raiders game. You win again at Vegas, and now you got the Dolphins, you got the Bills and the Dolphins, and so just the third thing is just get the W. I don't care what it looks like.
All right, before we get to the pick, this episode brought to you by FanDuel, exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. The line, I've seen this jump around. I saw the Patriots were up, then they were actually underdogs, but we've got them at the Pats -1, favored by 1, over under 39.5, Greg.
I'm gonna go on faith that the Patriots aren't going to fall to 1-4. It's probably faulty reasoning. This is going to be ugly. It's going to be brutal. Avert the eyes. Go apple picking. Rake some leaves. And just this is one of these that you just want to see the final score at the end of the day. I think the Patriots win by a field goal. They figure out a way. Hide the women and children. Just look for the final score. Hopefully it's a Patriots win, and then just move on.
I agree. I'm going to pick the Patriots for a couple of reasons, and it's more hope, optimism, faith, whatever you want to call it. I do think Mac will come into this game. If you want to listen to my podcast, I don't want to go too long here, but if you want to listen to my podcast today, I actually went into how Mac has handled his worst games. And you might be surprised with how Mac has actually come back and responded after truly terrible games in both rookie season and last year. I think he's going to come out and he's going to have his head about him. I think if he sees pressure, he's throwing it away. I think it's going to be a lot of quick game, hope for the run game, hope for a turnover. I think Derek Carr actually will, he's a little more susceptible to turnovers because I think he's thinking, I got to get going here and prove to people I'm healthy. I think he's going to throw a couple of footballs up for grabs. So I think Mac will be super safe. And I just don't see this team losing their first 3 games at home. Like to start 0-3 at home. I mean, I know they're not good, but 0-3 at home, I think they'll finally win a game at home, and it's going to be ugly.
The curse of the lighthouse.
it's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be pick the under unless turnovers and defensive touchdowns happen. If we're relying on offenses, this is gonna suck.
I think we need some Twitter check-ins from at Nick C Radio during the game. Like just give us a look on your face. Like, all right, point to the scoreboard, then give us a Nick barometer. Like I need to see what you're doing during the game.
Be half in the bag by the middle of the third quarter. All right, with that said, try to enjoy the game, everybody. We're back early next week to recap, hopefully, what is not a dreadful football game. He's Greg and I'm Nick.
With the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help fuel you up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. First of all, I got an email saying, be on the lookout for it when it was delivered. It was ready to go. You could tell that it was fresh. These guys know what they're doing. Too busy to cook this fall, but want to make sure you're eating well. With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, the prepping, the cleaning too, while still getting flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's never frozen fresh meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy and get back to crushing your goals. This was my favorite one, loaded bacon shredded chicken with sauteed spinach, green beans, and ranch sour cream. This only has 650 calories. I got the keto option to keep with my diet. There are so many options over there. Basically anything you want to do in terms of dietary restrictions, they can do it. You got to check it out. Head to factormeals.com/Bedard50. That's code Bedard50, BEDARD 50 at factormeals.com/Bedard50 to get 50% off.